Hi, Jim.
Greetings, Richard. Welcome to Alabama.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. We're here with Jim Hammond. Tell me about where we're at right now.
Well, we're at Oak Mountain State Park, which is the largest park in Alabama. We're up on the crest of Oak Mountain, enjoying the view back toward Richard's Hotel and across what's called the Valley and Ridge Province. It's one of the pretty views in Alabama that we love, and just thought I'd bring Richard here. We'll start our trip together. Let's go for an adventure.
Excellent.
Good deal.
Well, you know, we were just tooling around Oak Mountain State Park. Absolutely breathtaking out there.
We're in Surin, which is one of the older Thai restaurants in Alabama. So it's kind of not necessarily old style Thai, street Thai. It's a little bit of a modern touch to it that has tremendous Thai flavors here.
Well, everyone seems to know you, that's for sure.
Well, even some of the waiters have told me before that they've actually taken bets back in the kitchen as to which entree I'd be ordering.
Well, you've been to Thailand before, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you seen them making knives in Thailand?
Two places. We were just way up in northern Thailand one day, Cambodia. What's straight northeast of Thailand. Is that Cambodia?
Cambodia, I
that's
think.
where we were.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we're in the Jeep with my guide, and I tell him slam on the brakes because that's a knife-making operation right there.
Yeah.
These guys are just out in the open air, out there forging, just going along. And,
really?
And I jumped out and I said, "That's what I do for a living." He said, "You do that?" I did visit one other place down in Bangkok. It was a little different. They wouldn't let me in the back.
Really?
No, it was just an upfront thing. The knives look extremely well. They were extremely well made. Totally different genre of the other ones from up in the way up in the northern part of the country. So still had some doubts. I had questions and doubts. The knives are interesting, but it was totally different from the others.
Everybody makes knives differently. There isn't a knife maker we've gone to see that doesn't do things their own way. And there's such a variety. We're going to be looking at how Jim makes knives here in just a little bit. Tell me about how you got into knife making. You design knives with CRKT?
Well, I've been with them since day one.
Yeah.
I was with the company when they were forming the company. I signed my contract with them. So I've been with them and have discussed designing with other companies and have chosen not to because I like the feel of the family that CRKT has been all these years.
For being as big as they are, we love them. They're easy to work with. They're nice people. They're knife people. You know, a lot of big companies aren't knife people anymore.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
But CRKT, they're and the innovation, the way they work with custom makers like you in order to design new designs. I mean, they come out with 2 dozen new designs every year. What they do, the way they innovate, the chances that they take, the risks they take in putting out all kinds of new models like that, they just always really impress me. And their price point is really nice. You know, they serve this price point that isn't too expensive, but they're not cheapy knives either. They're nice knives. So for a work knife, for an everyday carry, a lot of options with CRKT. We have a whole showcase generally filled with CRKT.
Right.
How did you fall into knife making? What did you go to school for?
Well, I went to college at Clemson University in South Carolina.
We'll forget that.
Thank you. I have to run the gauntlet here in Alabama.
Yeah, I bet you do.
My wife having gone to Alabama, and my dad also is a graduate of Alabama. So.
You're Clemson. Yeah, that would be funny, especially on game night.
Especially on national championship night. Yes.
Yeah, that would be challenging.
I got my BS degree at Clemson in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management, and minor in geology. And if I hadn't taken so many wildlife biology courses, like one to get a double minor in psychology. So what that qualified me to do, I could give you the chemical analysis of the rock I was sitting on while psychoanalyzing the tourists that are about to be eaten by a bear. So that's the niche I trained for. However, being an outdoorsman, having always enjoyed hunting, fishing, backpacking, and so forth, I just simply, my senior year, I wanted to go get a good knife for the field. I was probably a Gerber or whatever, just a basic production knife.
Sure.
So I shot competitive archery there, and I walked into the store, one of the guys I shot with, and he said, "Let me show you a handmade knife from a maker in Spartanburg, W.C. Wilbur, Bill Wilbur." that he was making for one of the coaches there at Clemson.
Yeah.
I was blown away by the artistry, the excellence, the distinctiveness of it. There was just something there that just showed a different level. And it was simple. It was a simple knife. It was $85. I paid for it. I was wondering why it was so expensive.
Yeah.
And it was 3 months on delivery, and I said, what's taking him so long?
Yeah. Who knew?
So that was in the fall of '76. They had the first Southeastern Handmade Knife Show that February. So I got to come home. I never really appreciated the fullness of that show until later years.
Yeah.
The quality of custom makers that were attending that show here in Birmingham. So I came home to it. Doors started to close is what I studied. Other doors started opening, and then the passion came after spending 4 years of out-of-state tuition at Clemson and announcing to your folks that you wanted to make knives. So nobody in the family was
that
thrilled.
didn't go over well.
No, my grandmother was horrified. I think my mother equally so. But Dad said, "Well, let's see. Give it a year, and we'll see." The first thing I had to do was have my wisdom teeth taken out. So I'm sitting in the doctor's office in Huntsville. He said, "Son, what are you going to do with your life now that you've graduated?" I said, "I'm going to make knives." So I just had preliminary drawings. It's like there was no definable style I created. I was just taking piecemeal from other makers. So I had these designs together. He started ordering, his nurses started ordering, his other doctors started ordering.
Wow.
So I had a pile of orders in May of that year, and I'd never made a knife. I didn't know if I could. I never worked with Bill. I just visited him a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I bought out a guy that had given him a go and couldn't make a go of it.
Yeah.
So I had this equipment, no ability, no knowledge. I never ever really worked with my hands. I played several musical instruments, but this was going to be a first. So I had this pile of orders from the dentist, so that was in May. I said, "Well, when do you need them?" He said, "How about Christmas?" I said, "Okay." Well, I finished my first knife of October of '77, and I delivered all of their knives to them on Christmas Eve. I figured the Lord gave me the passion in order to do this work, and if He's going to equip me, and with the passion, He's also going to enable me to do it, and He's also going to bless it. So if it's what He wants me to do, and I figure this is what He's wanting me to do, I'm in a place that's unique. So I take that and I just say, "Thank you, Lord," and I'll make the most out of it with excellence, and so forth. And so it's been an incredible ride now for about 45 years and still going.
Wow, that's something else. Honestly, we just got our food, so before it gets cold, what do you say we eat?
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. We'll be back in a minute after we eat our food.
Richard, we're at Vulcan Park. Vulcan is the Roman god of the forge and iron, with Birmingham being the iron and steel center of the South from its history. I wanted to bring you right to home base to see the Vulcan statue that towers over the city.
So here we are, Jim's porch, his deck. Beautiful backyard, beautiful home. Jim, thank you for bringing me out here.
Glad to. It's
Really
a joy.
appreciate it. We had a wonderful day today. We hiked the trail. We looked at all the tourist type sites you have out here. Really neat places.
We enjoyed some cool breezes on the mountaintops today and a little bit of taste of Alabama today.
It was really nice. I fully enjoyed it. This would be a great place to live. Like I already said, I would love to live here. It's so green and so beautiful.
There's only 6 acres for sale here across the fence.
It could happen. It could happen. Well, Jim, thank you for today. We're going to get together again in the morning in your shop, and we're going to start looking at making some knives.
Sounds like a plan.
The next day.
Welcome to the knife shop. We had a great day yesterday. Looking forward to today when we hammer down on knives. Wanted to show you first, probably the most important place is the starting point, which would be with design. One thing I recommend to makers is some CAD format. I use AutoCAD for my 2D, and I use SolidWorks to extrude for 3-dimensional work, more elaborate designs. But just wanted to show you the need to get away from pencil and paper, which I first did, but to get into the opportunity for the greater detail of control for your design. And I have one of my sheaths pulled up here. I even do my leather work on CAD because of how detailed that can be as well. This is the Flesh Eater 5 utility bolo, and it's showing the sheath configurations for actually the 3 bolos that I have in my line. You have the CAD drawings, of course, for the knife, which have already been executed. And then when I was working through the design for the sheath, you've got so many elements here because there's like a pivot ring, a detachable pivot ring, a detachable belt loop. And in the drawing, you can see the detail of here because I'm laying out rivet locations, snap locations, crease lines for the folds, stitch lines, spacing for another stitch lines. All these elements are very critical, especially when using a stitcher instead of hand stitching, which I used to do. You have to have certain spacing placements that are required for the stitcher. So this is where the CAD really is great because I can come in and put in my notes. And first thing I want to say, D.E. Henry said the most important piece of equipment in his shop was his notebook. And that's what I would say to any maker. The more detailed notes you can take on the way that you make knives, the easier it is to refer back to in order to work from for later on as things become more complicated. But even with this 2D CAD, I can get a look and see what I'm going to be seeing here, because you can see, I'll see how my ring is going to be visible front and back. That detaches. You got a detachable belt loop. This detaches the ring system where you can put a shoulder mount on it to carry it under the arm, but it also shows the position and the look of the rotating belt loop, the retainer strap, which can also be taken off if you want to take it off, worn under the arm.
How difficult is it to learn CAD?
There is a definite learning curve. AutoCAD is much easier than SolidWorks. SolidWorks is very abstract and much more involved. In fact, I took off a year to take lessons in AutoCAD when I first purchased a seat with them. But just get with it and practice. There's great stuff on the internet. If you know somebody that teaches it, maybe you could ask them for pointers. But the internet's a great resource now to be able to learn and just start playing with it, because take the each step as you go through, how to draw a line, how to draw a circle, how to draw whatever shape you're working with, and how to manipulate those lines. And that's what you're doing. And I think instead of being on paper, you've got such incredible control to be able to change it immediately, to maintain detail, to see commonality of designs, to integrate certain elements that you can bring in as a block that you don't have to redesign. And there's just so many features that you can do with CAD that just put you ahead of the curve instead of trying to do it with pencil and paper the old way like a draftsman. Anything that will let you engage in, and this is merely a tool. This doesn't produce your knife design. You're the creator. You have to create it. It's got to come from within you, but it's merely a tool just like any other tool. It starts here and it starts here. What's in your heart comes out in your design because it's showing who you are, the individuality of it, and then you get to transpose it and put it into real life on paper through your CAD program, and then you get to put it on steel and take off. You're off and running. You print this out, and then I lay that design onto the steel or onto a template that I've already prepared, and then you do the first step of several hundred in making a custom knife, and that's to lay out the design on the steel. It gives me my profile, it gives me my hole placements. So that's my point of beginning.
From design, where do we go?
Well, we'll go and look at the evolution, some of the different stations, as far as the different stages, grinding, milling, drilling, cutting, and so forth, and just give you a little bit of an explanation at each of those as far as what they play into a knife. Do it in the back in the Magic Kingdom. Yes.
Here we go.
Well, this is a flesh eater that's just begun as far as the bandsawing, as far as cutting it out. So
you profile on a bandsaw?
Yeah, bandsaw right here. Metal cut blades. You want to have a bandsaw blade that includes at least 3 teeth in the work at all times.
Yeah.
So it's going to be different for thinner stock like 1/8 or 5/32. You get up to 1/4 or 3/8, and so that's a difference that you want to do. To keep from hanging teeth, it just provides more cutting surface, effective cutting surface in the blade itself and the material. With this is this simple feature of this hold down arm, which I use. So when I'm drilling, when you get into the bigger drill bits, they're more dangerous. So once I get to, and I stage up through the drill sequence, I'll start with, I'll spot with 16th, and I'll do 3/32, and then on up 3/16 quarter and on up through 3/8.
Yeah.
But what I want to do when I get to quarter, I'll have the table down enough to clear my 3/8 inch drill bit, but I'll start with a quarter. Now I'll keep the commonality quarter, 5/16, 3/16 in the same hole. So how do I keep it in place? So this little device is like my third arm, okay? So that comes in and that locks that thing in. It locks it enough, you put more leverage on it.
Sure.
But that's holding that in place, so I'm aligned and I can drill. A lot of times if I'm drilling handle materials, when I'm drilling handles, because of the tapered tang, I'll use a center line jig. We'll probably need to take a picture of that just to see, but it's simply a fixture that's holding the flat portions of the ricasso area parallel. So then the tapers of the tang, you can then drill the handles with those two V-shaped tapers. Yeah. And this helps hold that down while I'm drilling over here.
Yeah.
Materials I can vacuum while I'm doing it or whatever, either blow or vacuum. So that's what this little arm helps. So it just swings out of the way, it goes up and down the table. When you need it, just put you right in place, lock it in.
Easy peasy.
Safe.
Yep.
This has got its place for heavy duty cuts, where you're having to deal with X and Y axes. But I actually also use this, it's integral for my work on my leather work.
Oh, really?
For my sheath work.
You use this on leather?
I do. Now, you would not expect, but like on my seal tack sheaths, anything with the snaps where it may be in a surface that comes in contact with the metal, I have to recess the base of that snap into the leather in order to give clearance from contact with the blade. So I take a particular end mill cutter that's the size of that, and then I'll make that recessed arc, the circle, to accept the snap head in.
Wow.
So yeah, it's critical. First seal tacks I made without it, and they stick them in there and they start scuffing the blade.
Yeah, that's scratch the blade.
Oh, how am I going to overcome that? And it requires a cutter that's usually a larger diameter than what a drill press will accommodate.
Really?
So that's why I had to go to the mill.
Yeah.
Because there's one of them right there.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's, you see, with the leather still in it.
Yeah.
And that's been used and sharpened for a lot of times, but it's the perfect size.
Yep.
It was an old 5/8 that's cut down a little bit. One of the hardest things to achieve in knife making is a quality flat. This was something that I came up with in order to create, to me, the best flat I can achieve. So I took a 1 horsepower motor, 11-to-1 gear reduction feature, and then turned down a lapidary disc with a micarta facing. And so this is what I use for all my flats. So when I come off the surface grinder, I can come to this and it will show me immediately any irregularity in the surface that I can't see. So immediately you see it here, and then you correct those. So you may have to go all the way back to 100 grit to get them out on a heat-treated blade. So then you work your zones, you work your ricasso, the flat areas in front of the guard area, then you work your taper, so you're really working 4 surfaces on a knife. And it's very tricky because some of the ricasso on the small knives with double grinds are very tiny. It's very easy to rock those. So it's really a challenge to maintain the integrity of keeping the axis squared to the wheel.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of guys use discs that are vertical. To me, I just could apply better pressure here. I just had more control over one that was horizontal.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly low speed. And I can do, depends on which side of the knife I'm working on. It's bidirectional, so it reverses.
Yeah.
So I will finish this up all the way through probably a 600 grit. Or it all depends if I'm going to a hand sand or if I'm doing a bead blast finish, it all depends. It's been my workhorse for decades. It's my favorite grinder. It's a Burr King 1272, variable speed with step pulleys. And to me, it's been the greatest thing I've ever used out of all. So I don't know, this may be 30, 40 years ago. I don't know when I first purchased this, when it first came out. So this is it's been with me ever since they first introduced it.
Wow.
So today, what I'm showing you here is just simply the setup of what I would do grinding on one of the fighters, utilizing the largest diameter wheel I'm using, which is a 10-inch. So I will change it. Well, I will grind on a 10-inch wheel, 2 inches wide with a serrated face.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I finish, I switch to a slightly softer durometer, 1-inch wheel, smooth. Okay. Some guys I know grind 1-inch, finish on 2. Yeah. The reason I do this, I want to concentrate my contact point because with so much flow to the grind lines, I want to concentrate where I am on there without having too much spread of a 2-inch belt. If I can concentrate it down to a 1, I'm focusing where I am as I'm tracking my grind when I'm working on finishing it. I want to touch on the fundamental, the one core element that's framed the entire Flesh Eater series in my line. It comes from Ishinryu Karate, and this is Arsenio James Advincula, first generation student with the creator of Ishinryu Karate. And Jim is also the creator of the martial arts training program for the Marine Corps. 3 tours in Vietnam, drill instructor, Paris Island, Black Belt Emeritus, Marine Corps, Okinawan, one of the Okinawan grandmasters and of martial arts. So the basis of his a structure for the flesh eater grip is based upon the Ishinru fist, the fist in the martial arts form of Ishinru. Most people will make a fist like so. Most people, if they're punching, they're going to deliver a twist punch. What Jim introduced was Ishinru, and this is the Ishinru fist. Here's the normal fist, moves the thumb to the top, and it turns the fist down, which brings the striking point of the 2 knuckles in direct alignment with the wrist. But the key is what this does to the muscular structure of the wrist. This will actually double and triple the strength of the hand to be able to keep the wrist from flexing. And this is for either empty hand or with a knife.
Wow.
And we've played with this. I tried it on Richard.
Yeah. It made a huge difference. Yeah.
And when Jim introduced this to the Marine Corps, 6 months later, the commandant was asking, why have hand and wrist injuries continued at the same level in San Diego, and Paris Island has dropped virtually to 0. So Jim introduced not only the Ishinru fist, but the vertical punch, which is a straight delivery punch that doesn't incorporate the twist.
Yeah.
So those were the 2 elements that he did. So when you look at that, you take a flesh eater. This is a trainer, not a real knife.
You carry that in your pocket all the time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So as you see, with this extended like so, there's your flesh eater in the full extension of the same fist, same Ishinru fist. So it strengthens it, it gives you better control, and it's a thumb to the side where most people will grasp with a fencer's grip.
Yeah.
Much easier to disarm. It's a much more open grip to disarm. You can use leverage with the thumb. You drop into this grip, you're closing off, you're increasing the control, but you're also having a similar thumb placement here to the side, which is the closest match to what's creating the strength in the Ishinru fist. My dad bought this from me for $100 when I finished it, so I was tickled to death.
Yeah.
Okay? And I started work in May of '77. I finished this knife October 1st of 1977. So this was my first one. Little drop point hunter, non-tapered tang, but it did have a soldered on brass guard and a wood composite handle. So that was number 1.
This is an amazing first knife. You get off the camera here.
I've never been ahead of orders the whole time I've been making knives.
It's amazing.
I appreciate my customers, and they do wait a long time. I'm sorry, but it is truly a one-man operation.
Worth waiting for. You know, when I hold one of your knives, it's like it was molded to my hand. It's just amazing. Really good stuff, Jim. Really
Great.
good stuff.
Glad you can come here and see them firsthand.
Me too. Me too. You really do deserve the accolades. It's amazing. You're a hell of a knife maker.
Well, appreciate it.
I'm so impressed. And I see a lot of knife makers. You really know what you're doing. You're at the top of your game, my friend.
Back where it all started from, back in your office here, we started in this room talking about the CAD program and doing the design work. We ran through pretty much the whole process back there of what you do. It's not the whole process, but we gave them the highlights and talked about how you do some of the things you do. So much detail goes into what you do, so much consideration, really impressive. But now you bring some of that to production knives, to make your knives accessible to everyone, not just those few of us who can actually afford them. They're really accessible to everybody through CRKT, which is Columbia River Knife and Tool.
This is back in a time when there were no custom makers. There were just in-house designers that were working with the companies. So like CRKT and some others very early, they saw the benefit of utilizing custom makers who had already worked through problems and already had creative designs that would take the industry farther. So I was the first one with CRKT to start designing, and there was a lot of hair pulling, a lot of solutions, because things that we take for granted in the industry today had never been dealt with early on there. Well, this was one that was an early one called the ABC. It was a fixed blade model, did it in a tanto blade and also with a blunt tip. That was more for whitewater work. This one, I've come to find out, is become one of the badge of honors with a lot of the elder snipers, so to speak, that's been in country a lot longer. One of the guys that came back finished his 5th tour. I helped him retrofit one of the sheaths he'd lost some parts from coming through Bagram. That he said, yeah, we wore these, the senior snipers wore these with a badge of honor. Well, we got some of the very early ones. The Mirage was one of the first really cool ones we came out with. This was one in charcoal, and it was just a basic liner lock, little drop point.
Oh, yeah.
And this was one that was the first, I believe it was the first frame lock Columbia River did. So it's a titanium frame lock, and a little dress Mirage. And we did this in 3 sizes. There was one they called the Harley Davidson where they tricked it out with the polished fittings.
Oh, sure.
Mirror finish clip and so forth. We just nicknamed it that. But it's just another variation of the same style for this little series, which was very popular early on for a lot of years. Current one right now, this is the PSD. This is the polished blade with the carbon fiber handles on it. And this is the one that has the black finish with the VEF serrations, which are patented and proprietary to Columbia River right now. So these are a couple of the ones from last year and this year, and there's more good ones to come.
Yeah, well, CRKT, great company. If you'd like to find some CRKT knives, you could do that online at all kinds of great retailers, including bcknife.com.
That's where I would start.
Well, Jim, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a great few days together.
You know, it has. We've talked a lot of knives. I'm honored that you let us into your world for just a couple of days. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your professionalism, your love of knives, your support of the industry. It goes a long way.
That. You know, I hope so. I hope so. I think everybody should carry a knife, including you all out there watching this right now. So if you'd like to get a knife, and you'd like to get a really nice knife, I know there's got to be years to wait for one of yours, but if they want to get a knife directly from you, can people do that out there?
Sure, I still take orders.
Where do they go?
They can go to jimhammondknives.com. That's my website for the customs, and then I have a very young YouTube channel with just a few of the videos, and that's the primary place. And also go to my Facebook page, because there's a number of things, some stories and so forth, which are cool. One gentleman on there where one of my SEAL Tacs saved his life, and just interesting to see the personal touch from a lot of people on the Facebook, which is a little bit different.
Well, we're gonna put your website down here, down below. Just check it out down here, and you'll see his website listed along with ours. And feel free to go directly to Jim if you want to buy one of his knives. If you want really the very best knife you could possibly get, Jim right here. You're a legend, great guy. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Richard, thank you. Thank you so much.
And that's it for this show. Jim Hammond Knives here in Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you then. I'm looking at our monitor, and you're a lot taller than I am. I don't know where in line I was when it came to height, but
You just needed to be in the South and eat some of the Southern cuisine that we enjoy.
I guess so. Goodness, this is what happens when you grow up in Connecticut. I'm wearing lifts next time I come out here.
All right, let's go to the next step.